This video will feature slowly decreasing lighting as the daylight outside my window gradually fades, so sorry about that. This video also comes with a trigger warning for discussions of ableism, sexual assault, rape, domestic violence and abuse. This week we're talking about feminism and ableism, so I'm going to talk about some of the ways in which disabled women are specifically affected by sexism in ways that temporarily able women aren't or aren't to the same extent. Many disabled women, even in so-called developed countries like the UK, are at risk of forced or coerced sterilisation as a result of medical professionals or relatives who don't believe that they would be capable of raising a child. This is like Holly talked about in her video the week we did reproductive rights, and I'll put a link to her video down below. Because if we are going to talk about reproductive rights and birth control and abortion, that equally needs to include a discussion of sterilisation, because that is part of a woman's right to choose whether she has a child or not. Taking that right away is as terrible as forcing a woman to have a child against her will. And disabled women who do have children often face accusations that they're a bad mother because of the ways in which their disability changes the way they interact with their child, or if the disability is hereditary because people don't think that they should have had a child in the first place. For a variety of reasons, having a disability can increase your dependence on others. You may need a carer's assistance to get around the home, perform day-to-day activities. You may need someone to drive you from A to B. And even if your mobility isn't impaired, your disability may make it difficult to find sustainable, well-paying work, meaning that in the absence of government benefits, you may be financially dependent on your partner or other relatives, all of which increases the vulnerability of disabled women and puts them at a greater risk of sexual assault or domestic abuse. If you're physically or financially dependent on your partner and they turn abusive, what do you do? How can you report someone when you rely on them to help you complete day-to-day activities, or to get out of the house, or to help pay for food and bills and rent for you, or maybe even for your children? The majority of sexual assaults are committed by someone the victim knows, not by strangers in dark alleyways. And a physical disability may make it more difficult for you to resist an attacker, while a mental illness such as depression may increase the likelihood that you'll end up blaming yourself, explaining away abuse as something that you caused or maybe even deserved for being such a terrible burden. If you do attempt to report someone, any disability that affects your communication, either physically or mentally, may make it harder for you to fully articulate what happened to you to the extent required to gain an arrest and conviction. And finally, even if you get past that barrier, will anyone believe you? Our society strips disabled people of their sexual autonomy and sexuality. So we're shocked if a disabled person is openly sexual, or if a temporarily able person shows sexual attraction towards a disabled person. And because of the way our society conflates rape and sexual attraction, the message creeps in that if you're not considered sexually attractive according to society's norms, for example, if you're disabled, then you can't be raped, because why would anyone want to try and have sex with you? As feminists, we need to check our able privilege and ensure that we're discussing these issues that affect disabled women. And as with all intersectionalities, this is not something that we can just focus on in discrete chunks. We can't say, okay, we're going to listen to the disabled feminists this week, but then after that we're just going to go back to what matters to the rest of us. This needs to be part of our everyday feminism in the same way that race issues need to be part of our everyday feminism, the same way that trans issues need to be part of our everyday feminism, the same way that class issues need to be part of our everyday feminism, the same way that queer issues need to be part of our everyday feminism. All of which brings me on to my final point, which is about making feminist spaces more accessible. Because not only do disabled women face oppressions that temporarily able women don't, it can also be much harder for them to access generic feminist spaces if we're not checking our privilege and making those spaces accessible. And we could all very easily find ourselves in the same situation. I've said throughout this video temporarily able privilege because it is only temporary. We're all only one accident or illness away from finding that that feminist group that we used to attend is no longer accessible to us because they meet in the upstairs back room of a pub and there's no lift access, or because there's no disabled toilets, or because the literature that's distributed isn't available in a format that we're able to read. And this is something that I am shamefully aware that we need to get better at on those pesky days. A handful of our videos have captions for anyone who's deaf or hearing impaired. Most of them don't. And we've had this raised a few times where people have asked for captions or transcripts, and honestly, it is something that we're aware of if it's a matter of time and resources. So if you'd like to help us fix this, then please look in the description. There's some information there about how you can help us to make captions for all of our backlog of videos. I think it's going on over 100 now. So please, if you can help us, that would be amazing. This week also sees the start of the London Stealth Paralympics, one of the sponsors for which is somewhat unbelievably Atos. For those unaware, Atos is the company contracted by the government to basically kick as many disabled people as they can off benefits, putting them at a greater risk of all the issues that I mentioned earlier in the video and causing widespread suffering and in many cases suicide. In response, campaigning group Disabled People Against the Cuts are running a week of actions that started yesterday called the Atos Games. So please look in the description for links to more information about that as well, to see if there are any events that you can get involved in. If I've missed anything, if I've got anything wrong, please say in the comments. And if any disabled women or feminists would like to make a guest video about their experiences of feminism and tell their story, then please get in touch. Again, more information in the description. We would absolutely love you to do that. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you next Monday. Bye.